For the past few years, a number of organizations have been trying to expand access to quality education in science. Part of the effort is the educational nonprofit and partnering with the Boston Public Schools, E-Inc. We'd like to welcome its executive director, Dr. Ricky Stern. Thank you very much for being with us again, Doctor.
No, thank you for having me, Chris. I appreciate it.
For people who don't know E-Inc., you're a museum, you're an action center. Explain what you do.
Okay. Well, what happens is over the years we've grown, and so we've constantly tried to, let's say we're broad in what we do, in the sense that we try to get science into a lot of levels of the society in terms of the education world. So we teach in after schools, day schools, we teach teen teams in small groups to create project-based learning. And over the years, this year we're going to be in, for example, 12 elementaries. It's really very exciting. And I can say, later what we do exactly, but the point being that we're bringing environment or I like to call it now planet science into the classroom and into the after schools. And that is a very hands-on, robust science. And now we added a museum. And the museum is very exciting. It's our newest sort of thing. And it brings one class a day, and it's a smaller space. We're in partnership with the Peggy Note Museum in Chicago. They're starting some traveling exhibits, and we've been focusing on climate. And so I think it's one of the first times I've seen a serious museum effort for kids in late elementary, early middle, and we taught them all the way through. It was very, very high marks from the teachers.
Well, it's clear from the way you talk that you love doing this, but on the other hand, this is something that needs to be done because we, I guess, have some catching up to do.
Catching up to do?
In other words, to get the achievement of students up to where it ought to be, especially if you're thinking about kids getting jobs.
Yes. Okay. So what's really tricky, I think, let's look at for schools, because of course that's the center where schools, where education for science is coming from for so long. So numbers in science, not in the other subjects, have been odd. Kids only get an hour and a half of science in elementary, which is what's allotted, and then they go 1 hour a day later in middle. And the higher you go up, the lower the achievement numbers regarding testing is. And so that's been an interesting question. What's that about? And I think what it's about is the capacities of the schools. They can't do everything, and they make very hard, thoughtful decisions about what's our strategic best effort. And that's going to be in reading, writing, speaking, math. And everything else will have to wait. And how else would you do it? It just, the schools can't do everything. So what happens is, we as a nonprofit now see that an important piece of what we're about is value added. Can we add more to the day? Can we add more to other experiences that are science-based, our museum being another example, that get kids interested, committed, excited, and wanting more? I think that's important.
Well, one very recent example at the Washington Irving Middle School in Rosno, you have this sort of green infrastructure that's just been unveiled. You've got things growing outside the school. Kids are outside more playing, and they see this, and they see it again later, and they start thinking about it. What's the importance of that?
Well, so there's a couple of things going on, I would think. First of all, there's hands-on learning. There's something about making things, doing things. Even when we teach in a classroom, the kids are constantly being given things to do that help them make their own conclusions, help them draw from what's in front of them so that they're the smarty pants in the room, So that's exciting. I think also there is a really important need to help people see what's driving their planet. So I think the idea that the sciences, especially in our case, the planet sciences, are right now particularly important because, as we've all seen, global warming is coming at a much faster rate than was predicted. And even the children in the last 3 weeks who all watched television and saw those hurricanes and their effects are really suddenly wanting to know more. Yeah.
This is BNN News, and we're talking with Dr. Ricky Stern from E-Inc. Doctor, schools are run by the public sector, mainly that we're talking about, but at the same time, people who exert leadership in education, they could be parents, they could be the community, and you've got an event to get them involved in what you're doing, too.
Well, yes. So for the museum itself, we're doing something a little comical, I suppose you could say, and one would even think perhaps not quite so environmentally in tune. We're going to be throwing several thousand rubber duckies into the channel over at the Little Mystic, which is, a very set aside. We have buoys and, all of that to keep those ducks in line, as it were. But the idea is that people come and they buy some ducks and they bet and they get some prizes. But for us, it's a fundraiser. It helps us bring in the next exhibit, which is also coming from the Notebart. And that exhibit is about looking for kids to look at what is home when we have questions of resilience we have to deal with. And they're going to look in different zones and how they build and create and really look at what nature teaches about what works in certain climates and how they can extrapolate that. And it's a fabulous exhibit. Again, very hands-on. And the kids love it. That we have in our space one big room that gets subdivided to topic, and every class has been with us 4 hours in one exhibit. We have a kid, a young person, a staff person, tell how old I am, who stays with them the whole 4 hours, and it's interactive. We added plays, we added games, we added questions at every gondola. Very fun. Definitely something worth doing.
Well, I grew up with science sometimes being very engaging and sometimes, not so engaging.
I understand.
What are the kids like when they're involved in activities like this?
Well, I think what happens is they love the idea that they can do something. I've become a total fan of that hands-on concept. But they also like discovery. I think kids get so turned on by an idea they didn't know. I had a chance to go work with primatologists for some years, and I don't think I understood anything until these people introduced me to the unbelievable mysteries of the planet. And for us, as E-Ink, that's really our goal. When they come to us, we're saying to them, this isn't just something to look at. It's not just a screen. This is something amazing. And we teach it as if it's amazing. The kids come away. That's infectious in and of itself. And our goal is for them to walk out wanting to know more. I think that's, good science is about that.
And I'm saying, even now, with all this news coverage of the hurricanes, we don't know exactly if it's global warming, but our minds are they're looking into this and saying,
no question.
Is there a connection? What's going on here?
Yeah. So taking the hurricanes as an example, two things to say. One about kids and then one about, is it a question? The kids. I was setting up a program just 2 weeks ago at after school for very young kids, first and second graders. And the teacher had said to them, Dr. Ricky is coming. What do we want her to teach us this year? It was really kind of a cute thing to do. And they wanted to know about hurricanes. I thought that was interesting. And it rattled them. It got their attention, right? So now, of course, we will have to, teach them something about that. Secondly, there's no question in my mind, and I'm, not on the climate UN group, that when you warm your planet endlessly and there's more evaporated water in the air, suddenly you're going to see a lot of things that are different and quicker and quicker and quicker. There's no question in my mind that those hurricanes are about climate change.
Well, I hope we can avoid that here in Boston, but one thing that we're not going to avoid is the next election day, and on that day there's going to be a king tide. What can you learn from that? A king tide in Boston.
Meaning that it's coming up super high.
Yeah.
Yes, I know. Is that a metaphor? It could be.
No, it's just water.
No, well, maybe, yeah. I think what's happening in the age of global warming, and there's no such thing as just anymore when you think of water. We had an interest, this is slightly, it's not off topic, but we're on the street level, and I don't know if everybody remembers in July by the Navy Yard, these clouds that were not clouds from a thunderstorm, but just, big clouds. I don't know if anybody's watching the sky, but I have definitely noticed that. It's very, very, very wet up there all summer. And what was interesting is it poured for there was suddenly everyone's phones going off on water alerts and stuff. That thing came up within an inch of the edge of the curb, right? And I didn't expect that. And suddenly I realized this is going to come through our door and our entire museum will get wiped out. It's very interesting until it's right in front of your nose, and then it's very scary.
Or if you're driving through it. Finally, we should
Please.
remind our viewers exactly when and where is that Duck Dash.
Okay, so the Duck Dash. The Duck Dash is October 14. It is from 11 to 3. It's got band, food truck, fair games, science activities, and a lot of ducks going into the water. Fabulous prizes. If you come, spend your $10 a duck, you will help us get that museum and exhibit, and you will also have a ball. We guarantee it.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Dr. Ricky Stern from E Inc.